Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to read the rest of chapter 19 in Charlotte's Web. It's called The Egg Sac, and it's been a little bit, so let's just refresh our memory where we left off. So, we have a lot of questions that are about to be answered because we're getting close to the end of our book. And Charlotte is really tired. There's something wrong with Charlotte. And she just made this amazing egg sac. It's her masterpiece, her magnum opus, her work of art. And we know that there are over 500 baby spiders in the egg sac. Ew, gross. Spiders gross me out, but they eat bugs, so I'm okay with them. And we know Charlotte is a really nice spider. Templeton just had the night of his life. Big fat rat came back and said, "Oh, what a night." And what did Templeton notice? The blue ribbon on Uncle's pen. So they're at the fair. Templeton said, "Oh, by the way, Wilbur, the other pig won first prize already." So Wilbur and Charlotte just found out that bad news from Templeton, and now we are worried. Are they going to eat Wilbur? Bwah, bwah, bwah. We're not quite sure. Their plan was that Wilbur would win first prize. The other pig was bigger, and he won first prize. So now that problem is getting worse. There's something wrong with Charlotte, and I'm a really close reader, so I'm paying close attention to that. Why is she so tired? And she's talking about, "I'm never going to be able to see my babies." And Wilbur said, "Oh, Charlotte, yes, you will." So I think there's something seriously wrong there. We have Fern going on the Ferris wheel with that boy. So Fern is more interested in other things now, not as much interested in the animals. She went on the Ferris wheel. I forget his name, but I think he comes up again. And Mr. Zuckerman, he wants to win first prize, but we just found out Uncle did. So where we left off was, "Congratulations," murmured Templeton. "This has been a night." He closed his eyes and went to sleep. Now we have a break in our chapter, and it's going to go, and the humans are going to come. So it goes from the animals talking, and now Mr. Arable, the Zuckermans, Fern, Avery, her older brother, are going to come into our chapter, and that's where we'll pick up. It's going to be a short one because it's just a couple pages, so pay close attention. So this is chapter 19, the second half of it. At 9 o'clock, Mr. Arable's truck rolled into the fairgrounds and came to a stop at Wilbur's pen. Everybody climbed out. "Look!" cried Fern. "Look at Charlotte's Web! Look at what it says!" The grown-ups and children joined hands and stood there studying the new sign. "Humble," said Mr. Zuckerman. "Now, isn't that just the word for Wilbur?" Everyone rejoiced to find that the miracle of the web had been repeated. Wilbur gazed up lovingly into their faces. He looked very humble and very grateful. Fern winked at Charlotte. Lurvy soon got busy. He poured a bucket of warm slops into the trough. And while Wilbur ate his breakfast, Lurvy scratched him gently with a smooth stick. So remember, the word on the web is humble, and that means you're not a bragger, you are grateful, you don't show off, and you don't boast. So Wilbur is standing there, and there's the miracle. They saw the word on Charlotte's Web. And I'm immediately thinking maybe that's going to change who wins first prize, because they didn't see the word on the web before they gave out the prize. So maybe they'll take it away from Uncle and give it to Wilbur, because the miracle on the web, the word says humble, and Wilbur's standing there. So the humans just noticed it. And I love that Fern gave Charlotte a wink. That means Fern is the only human that knows what's really happening. She can hear the animals talk, remember? And she's the only one that really can. All right. "Wait a minute," cried Avery. "Look at this!" He pointed to the blue tag on Uncle's pen. "This pig won first prize already!" The Zuckermans and the Arables stared at the tag. Mrs. Zuckerman began to cry. Nobody said a word. They just stared at the tag. Then they stared at Uncle. Then they stared at the tag again. Lurvy took out an enormous handkerchief and blew his nose very loud. So loud, in fact, that the noise was heard by the stable boys over the horse barn. "Can I have some money?" asked Fern. "I want to go to the Midway." "You stay right where you are," said her mother. Tears came to Fern's eyes. "What's everybody crying?" "Oh, I gotta do my Mr. Zuckerman." "What's everybody crying about?" That was not a good one. Asked Mr. Zuckerman. "Let's get busy. Edith, bring the buttermilk." Mrs. Zuckerman wiped her eyes with her handkerchief. She went to the truck and came back with a gallon jar of buttermilk. "Bath time," said Mr. Zuckerman. Cheerfully, he and Mrs. Zuckerman and Avery climbed into Wilbur's pen. Avery slowly poured buttermilk on Wilbur's head and back, and as it trickled down his sides and cheeks, Mr. and Mrs. Zuckerman rubbed it into his hair and skin. Passerby stopped to watch. Pretty soon, quite a crowd had gathered. Wilbur grew beautifully white and smooth. The morning sun shone through his pink ears. "He isn't as big as that pig next door," remarked one bystander, "but he's cleaner. That's what I like." "So do I," said another man. "He's humble, too," said a woman, reading the sign on the web. Everybody who visited the pig pen had a good word to say about Wilbur. Everyone admired the web, and of course, nobody noticed Charlotte. Suddenly, a voice was heard on the loudspeaker. "Attention, please," it said. "Will Mr. Homer Zuckerman bring his famous pig to the judge's booth in front in 20 minutes? Everyone is invited to attend. Crate your pig, please, Mr. Zuckerman, and report to the judge's booth promptly." What is that announcement for? Maybe my prediction's right. They just made an announcement. People are all gathering around the pen and saying, "Well, he is a clean pig. Wow, he is humble." And then there was an announcement. "Mr. Zuckerman, report with your pig to the judge's booth." Do you think Wilbur's going to actually win first prize? I think that might happen. For a moment after this announcement, the Arables and the Zuckermans were unable to speak or move. Then Avery picked up a handful of straw and threw it high in the air and gave a loud yell. The straw fluttered down like confetti into Fern's hair. Mr. Zuckerman hugged Mrs. Zuckerman. Mr. Arable kissed Mrs. Arable. Avery kissed Wilbur. Lurvy shook hands with everybody. Fern hugged her mother. Avery hugged Fern. Mrs. Arable hugged Mrs. Zuckerman. They're all celebrating. Yay! Up overhead in the shadows of the ceiling, Charlotte crouched unseen, her front legs encircling her egg sac. Her heart was not beating as strongly as usual, and she felt weary and old. But she was sure at last that she had saved Wilbur's life, and she felt peaceful and contented. Whoa, that's a big hint. I'm sorry I keep stopping, but it's so important. Let's read one more line again. Her heart was not beating as strongly as usual, and she felt weary and old. So again, there's something wrong with Charlotte. Her heart isn't beating as strong. She feels weary, which means weak, and she feels old. So, again, I'm a close reader, and I know something's wrong. "We have no time to lose," shouted Mr. Zuckerman. "Lurvy, help with the crate." "Can I have some money?" asked Fern. "You wait," said Mrs. Arable. "Can't you see everybody is busy?" "Put that empty buttermilk jar into the truck," commanded Mr. Arable. Avery grabbed the jar and rushed to the truck. "Does my hair look all right?" asked Mrs. Zuckerman. "It looks fine," snapped Mr. Zuckerman as he and Lurvy set the crate down in front of Wilbur. "You didn't even look at my hair," said Mrs. Zuckerman. "You're all right, Edith," said Mrs. Arable. "Just keep calm." So Mr. Zuckerman's like, "Yeah, honey, your hair looks fine." He didn't even look. I can relate to that. That's like husbands, they don't pay attention to hair. And then, "Do you like my hair?" He said, "Yeah, it looks fine. Let's go, Edith." He didn't even look. Templeton, asleep in the straw, heard the commotion and awoke. He didn't know exactly what was going on, but when he saw the men shoving Wilbur into the crate, he made up his mind to go along. He watched his chance, and when no one was looking, he crept into the crate and buried himself in the straw at the bottom. "All ready, boys!" cried Mr. Zuckerman. "Let's go!" He and Mr. Arable and Lurvy and Avery grabbed the crate and boosted it over the side of the pen and up into the truck. Fern jumped aboard and sat on top of the crate. She still had straw in her hair and looked very pretty and excited. Mr. Arable started the motor. Everyone climbed in, and off they drove to the judge's booth in the front of the grandstand. As they passed the Ferris wheel, Fern gazed up at it and wished she were in the topmost car with Henry Fussy at her side. That's the end of our chapter. So Fern is not as excited. She looked at the Ferris wheel and wished she was with who? That boy, Henry Fussy. You better be good to Fern, Henry Fussy. You better be a gentleman. I don't know. Fern, you're a little young to be liking boys. But she is starting to grow up, right? She used to just love to be with the animals, and now she's thinking more about being with friends and not being with the animals. Here's a picture of them all hugging. So why were they hugging? Because they heard the announcement. "Please come to the judge's booth. Mr. Zuckerman, please come to the judge's booth with your pig." So they think they are going to win a prize. I think the same thing. Now they are celebrating. The word in the web says humble. We barely have any left, so let's see what's going to happen to Charlotte. What's going to happen to Wilbur? Always thinking as we read, as I struggle to put the bookmark in the book. Thank you so much for watching. Watch Thursday, and I'll read more from Charlotte's Web. Keep up all the great work.